Hello again, I am Fluff and I just beat a ninja to death with a spork. The rigor mortis is helping me use him as a footstool. But anyway. The Infiltrator is a class at odds with itself. It's attempting to cover two roles and not quite managing to excel or even do particularly well at either. But that's a topic for another time. It's one of the Infiltrator's weapons that concerns us for now. As I had no choice of submachine gun, PDW, etc, which I would have thought logical for a class named Infiltrator, rather than for instance Sniper, and was not after a long-range rifle, I settled for a scout rifle. In this case, the new conglomerate's AF-18 Stalker, a fully automatic 20-round magazine, high rate of fire weapon. Well, initially, on entering battle with the thing, the following thoughts occurred to me. Firstly, I must have done something horrendous in a previous life to end up using this fully automatic spud gun from the depths of the deepest, most infernal forsaken corner of the pit of utter suck. Why it's called a rifle is beyond me. Considering the damage you do to opponents at ranges beyond about 5 meters, suffices perhaps to tickle or irritate them, to the point where a pistol would probably be the more solid option. And if you add a suppressor, which you'd probably be forgiven doing seeing as you're an infiltrator trying to operate smartly in close proximity to the enemy, then may God have mercy on your soul, because now you're basically throwing slow globs of confetti at enemies. In fact, it might just be possible that using this thing is actually worse than nothing at all, because at least then maybe there'd be a chance that the enemy wouldn't see or might decide to ignore you. Certainly at optimal range, pistol knife actually emerges as perhaps the better choice, rendering this lackluster callow piece of equipment utterly devoid of point. Then I thought for a bit, and thought some more until I thought, what if this weapon is designed for a gameplay style even more at odds with the class than the class is with itself? Which point led me to start playing as if I was the infiltrator who never quite understood his basic training, was desperately acting on regular bouts of suicidal ideation, and cloaked on and off like a light switch being operated by someone receiving electroshock therapy at the same time. Lo and behold, breaking the infiltrator's already fragile and more or less irrelevant role, I suddenly found an instance where this rifle was not the epitome of fail, but only just, and in a place where any of the other classes would have been equally if not far better to use. Mark my words, somewhere a designer is weeping bitter tears into his drink, thinking of how mangled his vision became, pummeled and scarred as his own liver must surely be by now. But wait, all's not done yet. In a few limited ways it is possible to see a glimmer of this weapon transcending its Stygian origins to become a useful tool in the arsenal of the sneaky bastard. Now, it really isn't a good CQC weapon, but it is the best primary if you're dedicated to operating in ways that will bring the fight very close to you. It is a good ambush weapon. The rate of fire will mean the enemy caught unawares will fold like paper. A burst at centre mass, riding the recoil to end with a round or two in the face, and it will be game over in a fraction of a second. However, if an opponent has any inkling whatsoever that you're present, then your life will become exponentially harder. For all the changes I could suggest in an effort to elevate this sadly gutter-bound rifle, the only one I feel might make the biggest difference for the least amount of objection is actually nothing to do with the gun itself. I suspect that for this gun to come into its own, we merely need to be able to initiate fire while cloaked, decloaking the instant that the first shot is fired. In other words, we need to be able to break our cloak by firing. Currently, you've got to wait a painful second or so, pulling off a dramatic and very impressive but tactically unjustifiable feat before being allowed to shoot. And with this weapon, that is just not acceptable. It can change, and it must change, or else this weapon's going to fall to the wayside. It's going to be unloved, unused, disregarded, and useless. Which would be a shame as it opens up some pretty cool options for an infiltrator. Until such a time as that happens though, take my advice. Avoid this malign, frustrating mockery of aggression, because it's only going to bring you rage and sadness. Unless of course you wish to play this way, in which case there's nothing more I can do for you, and I am so very sorry. For now, take care, and farewell.